Hey, this is the Well Advice Channel too. What I want to talk about today is this idea that the first Native Americans were actually black, you know, to be honest with you. And what I'll be talking about specifically is debunking this exact theory to that's been going around for quite some time by using simple logic and common sense to indicate that this theory makes absolutely no sense, okay? Now I mention that, let's get started. So when it comes to debunking this particular claim that's been made by people like Dan Calloway and a few others that African Americans, and black people in the Americas for that matter, actually are the indigenous people of the Americas, particularly, African Americans are actually Native Americans. It simply comes down to the fact that there's so much evidence to indicate that we come from Africa, direct evidence to indicate that we come from Africa for that matter, okay? And when it comes to direct evidence, there is much evidence to indicate that we come from Africa. Everything from the fact that there were easily 12 million Africans who died, and that's the lowest estimate. It could have been much higher, and it probably was much higher, who died in the transatlantic slave trade. So, as a result, obviously, I'm certain you could find a lot of dead corpses, in the sea floor, you know, to kind of indicate, yes, this did happen, to the fact that there's a lot of shipwrecks that happen that indicate, yes, this did happen. This is a part of history that did happen, to the fact that there's obviously in West Africa, to be quite honest with you, no surprise, you know, as well as throughout the rest of Africa, there are places that clearly indicate that African slave trade did happen, because there are places that are now ruins where they used to exchange slaves, or transport slaves to, in order to prepare them for taking them to the new world. So the truth of the matter is there's much evidence to indicate that yes, this did actually happen in human history. This is something that did happen, as well as the fact that there's obviously, down to basic common sense as well, you know, um, you know, that us black people, like I was saying before, are directly from Africa. Okay, we directly came from Africa. We're not Native Americans, to be quite honest with you. So that's the truth of the matter when it comes to debunking this particular claim, to be quite honest with you. Okay, there's not much evidence to indicate it, and the evidence that they do have are just pictures that are really old that they claim is proof um that the first Native Americans were black, which is so stupid because you have to take something else into consideration as well. There were some black people who did, of course, who escaped, who did have children with Native Americans, but it still doesn't mean that the original Native Americans were black. Okay, those are just simply Native Americans mixed with African slaves, in terms of blood. So that's the truth of the matter. What the hell does that have anything to do with them actually genuinely Native Americans being purely black? And that's exactly the only evidence these people claim to have. But that is can easily be debunked by just simple history facts. Okay, that's the truth of the matter, and that's the most evidence they have, and just some random obscure facts that make absolutely no sense. So the truth is, we are from Africa. Not to mention, my last evidence to indicate that we are from Africa is the fact that you can obviously get genetic blood and DNA testing to indicate, yes, out of all the regions in the world, we are most closely genetically related to people in, of course, Africa, for that matter, for that matter. So when you look at that particular evidence and a particular logic right then and there, it easily debunks all the claims that these people make, for that matter, okay? That we are actually, indigenous to the Americas. Besides, the way those things work anyway is they test things based on your genetics, you know, and based on those genetics, they can obviously tell things like, for example, based on your bloodline, you know, and stuff like that. What place, your ancestors came from based on genetically, you know, something like, for example, based on the blood, they can tell, and genetics for that matter, they can tell things like what's most likely the food your ancestors ate, um, stuff like that, as well as, of course, you know, based on, your genetics as well. They can also test things like, for example, what climate your ancestors came from, if anything. So it can clearly indicate, of course, no surprise, that they particularly came from this region known as Africa, for that matter. So that's the truth of the matter. The first Native Americans were not black. And the truth of the matter is, what I'm going to say to end this off is that it's very problematic when this type of stuff happens, because when this type of stuff happens, all it does is just simply take away from authentic black history, okay? Because for authentic black history, there's a lot of things we did accomplish, there's a lot of things we did do that simply are not acknowledged because it's simply, of course, black history, and they don't acknowledge it. And when people do things like this, just like these people who claim the first the original Native Americans were black, or it could be as well claim that the original Chinese, yes, some people even say that were black, or it could be things like Indians are black and all this type of stuff, or if it's not that, black people introduced ideas and knowledge to those people. All it does is just disingenuize our authentic history, because racist people, of course, look at that type of stuff and say, okay, so you're telling me there's a great black civilization and all this type of stuff when um you know when a lot of you guys also claim that you guys did this and so on, so forth, you know which, of course, knowing how people think and how the world works, you can only find, if you can find some stuff to use as evidence to prove something was fictional, for one thing, then people will believe all the other stuff is fictional. So that is the truth of the matter, okay? When it comes to this particular situation and issue, okay? So takes away from authentic black history. Because the truth of the matter is, we are from Africa, okay? And there are cool things we did in Africa and we invented in Africa, just so we don't get credit for it, okay? So the truth of the matter is, simply put it, we should be proud of our heritage and not have to go around making these absurd claims that are not true, for that matter, okay? Besides, if you want accomplishments, look at the ruins of Great Zimbabwe. That was created by a black civilization. Look at the great Nubians of who are the greatest rival to Egypt, which is quite an accomplishment to be a great rival to Egypt, okay? Look at the Zulus of South Africa, okay? And even look at the black inventors who created great things that changed the world forever. Those are things you want to take into consideration. All this type of crap about, oh, well, there's no way they could have, you know, um, this crap that, that, oh, we let's not focus on that, let's focus on something else, that might be cooler and flashier to some of those people, like claiming that, oh, this particular civilization was founded by black people that's world famous. Like, for example, the Chinese dynasty was found, the first one at least, was founded by black people, is so stupid, and it's just hurtful and disengage us from authentic black history. So that's the truth of the matter. So in short, my point is that we are from Africa, as well as my other point is that we need to stop putting out this stuff out there, because all it's doing is taking away from authentic black history, which, what I mean by that is that it is taking away from our actual accomplishments. If anything, it's making it easier for racist people to take away from our actual accomplishments. So that's the truth of the matter, and that's what my point for this video is. So anyway, this is my video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it entertaining, as well as informative. And just remember, if you like this video and videos like this, remember to thumb this video up and hit the subscribe button. And this is all I have to say, and simply put, I'm out. So bye.